Have you ever come home after a long day and felt strangely absent from your own life? Not just tired, not just hungry, but like something essential inside you never made it back through the door. Your body's on the couch, but your mind is still stuck in a meeting. Your heart is somewhere between the hallway and the inbox, and your spirit, it hasn't spoken all day. You sit in silence. The television is on, but you're not really watching. You scroll through your phone, but nothing truly lands. It's as if the whole evening is fading before your eyes, and yet you can't bring yourself to do anything differently. Sound familiar? Some people say that's just adulthood, just how things are, that after work there's nothing left in the tank, and we should simply accept that the evening is a slow descent into sleep. But I wonder, is that really true? Or have we just forgotten how to return to ourselves? You see, Buddhist wisdom teaches that the space between actions, the transitions, are not empty. They're where our consciousness breathes. And in modern life, perhaps no moment is more overlooked than the time after we clock out. We treat these hours as leftovers, as scraps of attention given to the least important part of the day. But what if they are the most sacred? What if the quiet between work and sleep isn't meant to be numbed, but nourished? I've spoken with many people, especially in the later seasons of life, who feel something tender but unspoken during the evenings, a mix of fatigue and yearning, a desire to feel whole again, not just functional, but alive. And if you've ever felt that too, that quiet ache for presence after the day has drained you, then this reflection is for you, because today, together, we'll explore how to gently reclaim the part of the day that still belongs to you, not through drastic change, not through productivity, but through quiet, human rituals that remind you, you are not a machine that runs out of battery. You are a soul that forgets how to return. So let us begin this small journey back home to ourselves. Part 1. The invisible weight we carry home. There's a certain kind of heaviness that doesn't show up on a scale. It clings to your shoulders after a long day, not as a sack of bricks, but more like a fog, something you can't quite name. Yet you feel it settle behind your eyes and across your chest as soon as the front door closes. It's not just physical exhaustion, and it's not exactly sadness either. It's more like the slow ache of being full of things that were never yours to carry. Perhaps you've felt it too. You finish work, whether it's answering calls, solving problems, or simply trying to keep up with a world that never pauses. And when the day finally ends, there's no real exhale, no clean break, just the quiet, unspoken weight of all that was left unfinished, all the energy spent pretending, producing, pleasing. And you wonder, why am I so tired, even when I've done nothing since I got home? There was a woman I once spoke to, Elaine, 67, retired for 2 years after a long career in public service. She said to me, "You know, I thought I'd feel lighter after I stopped working, but I still carry the same heaviness every evening, like the rhythm of pushing through never left my body." When I asked her what she meant, she told me something simple but powerful. "I think I forgot how to stop. My body left work, but my mind never did." Elaine's story is more common than we think. In Buddhist teachings, there's a phrase, "The mind clings, even when the hands have let go." We may clock out, hang up the uniform, or close the laptop, but the mind doesn't always follow. It loops, lingers, replays conversations, imagines futures, reopens past wounds. And in that quiet replay, it keeps the nervous system on high alert, long after the danger or the deadline has passed. The weight we carry is not only from what we do, but from what we don't release. Think of it like carrying a heavy backpack through the forest. At some point, even the most experienced hiker has to stop and rest, to set the bag down, stretch the shoulders, and breathe without burden. But in our modern lives, we rarely do this for our minds. We rush from one task to another, and even our rest is filled with noise. Television in the background, phones buzzing with updates, thoughts spiraling like birds with no place to land. We become so accustomed to this silent weight that we forget what it feels like to be truly light. But here is the quiet truth. You don't have to carry it all the way to bedtime. You are allowed to put it down. In the Dhammapada it is said, let go of the past, let go of the future, and let go of the present. With a heart free from everything, cross over to the other shore. That shore is not another place. It is this very evening, free from the entanglements of the day. So how do we begin? Perhaps simply with a pause, a moment at the doorway, not to check your phone, not to run to the kitchen, but to stand still and feel the breath enter the body like a guest returning home. Perhaps light a candle or wash your hands slowly, as if the water is not just cleansing skin, but washing away the residue of tension. These are not small gestures. These are sacred acts of returning. What we're reclaiming here is not productivity, it's presence. Because when we don't allow ourselves to truly arrive home, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we live in a ghost-like state, present in form, but absent in essence, and the soul knows. It longs to be welcomed back. So tonight, before you sink into the usual rhythm of passive routine, ask gently, what am I still carrying? And would it be all right, just for now, to put it down? This too is a practice, and like all practices rooted in compassion, it begins not with force, but with softness. Part 2. A walk into yourself. Replacing the commute with mindfulness. There was a time when people used to complain endlessly about the commute, the traffic, the packed trains, the long waits in rain or snow. It was a necessary evil, they'd say, something to be endured, not enjoyed. And yet for many, when that commute disappeared, when work began happening from the kitchen table or the spare bedroom, something unexpected happened. They didn't feel lighter. They felt adrift, as if something that helped them shift gears was suddenly gone. It turns out that mindless drive or that quiet walk to the bus stop was doing something deeply human. It was giving the psyche a bridge to cross, a gentle transition from doing to being, from performing to simply existing, from worker to self. There's a Zen saying that goes, when walking, just walk. At first glance, it seems almost too simple, but in that simplicity is profound guidance, an invitation to return to the present moment, one step at a time. And for those of us who often feel emotionally tangled at the end of the day, perhaps what we need is not just to get home, but to arrive. A man named Frank, who worked in civil engineering for nearly 35 years, shared a ritual he discovered late in life. After I retired, he told me, I kept waking up at 6 a.m. like I always had. But there was no office to go to, no tie to put on. I felt a little lost, like the clock had betrayed me. So Frank did something simple. He started going for a walk around his block every morning, and again before dinner, not for exercise, not to get anywhere, but just to feel the rhythm of walking. It sounds silly, he said, but that walk helped me tell my brain, this is the start of the day, this is the end. And it made all the difference. When we don't have a ritual that marks the shift from one state to another, we carry the tension from one role straight into the next. We finish work and flop onto the couch, but our thoughts are still sending emails. We start dinner, but our heart is still processing a meeting that didn't go well. Our body may be home, but our spirit hasn't yet arrived. A mindful walk, even 5 or 10 minutes, becomes a kind of moving meditation. No destination, No music, no phone, just breath, step, breath, step. In Buddhist monasteries, walking meditation is a daily practice, not just for stretching the legs, but for stretching the soul, for anchoring awareness to something tangible, like the gentle pressure of your feet on the earth. You don't have to live in a monastery to feel this. You just need a sidewalk, or a garden path, or even a slow loop around the living room. What matters is not how far you go, but how fully you're present. Let the movement become your bridge. Let each footstep whisper to your nervous system, "We are safe now. The day is done. You may return to yourself." Over time, something subtle but powerful shifts. You begin to look forward to this pause between worlds, this sacred corridor of movement, where the noise fades and you meet yourself again in stillness, and no one else needs to understand it. Your neighbors might see you walking the same loop each day and wonder. Let them wonder, because deep down you'll know this isn't just a walk, it's a return to your body, your breath, your being, a return to the soft truth beneath the noise that you are more than what you produce, and that peace is always just one mindful step away. Part 3. The Couch of Forgetting. How we lose ourselves by accident. It happens quietly. You walk through the front door, drop your keys in the familiar bowl, loosen the tension in your shoulders, and before you even realize what you're doing, you've sunk into the soft embrace of the couch. Maybe you tell yourself you'll just sit for a moment, just a quick rest before doing something more meaningful. Maybe you even have plans, read that book, call that friend, stretch, or cook something warm and nourishing. But the moment you touch that cushion, something shifts. The air thickens, your limbs grow heavy, the stillness doesn't refresh you, it sedates you, and hours pass like fog rolling over hills, shapeless and slow. It's not laziness, it's not a lack of will, it's more like the soul slipping into a kind of quiet forgetting. For many of us, the couch is not just furniture, it becomes a place where the spirit disappears, not dramatically, not all at once, just gradually, moment by moment, until the whole evening blurs into background noise. The television flickers, the phone glows, and yet deep inside, there's a feeling, not of rest but of drift, a subtle, nagging sense that the night is slipping through your fingers. I remember speaking to a retired nurse named Carol, who described this experience with striking honesty. "There's this moment," she said, "when I sit down after dinner and the silence starts to echo. I grab the remote out of habit, but what I really want isn't a show. It's a sense of aliveness, of purpose. But the couch, it just lulls me into forgetting that." And who could blame her? After decades of working, raising children, and being everything to everyone, there's a deep longing to rest. But Buddhist wisdom invites us to look deeper. Is what we're doing truly rest, or just a form of numbness dressed in comfort? There's a parable about a monk who, after years of meditation and discipline, was granted a rare gift, the ability to enter complete stillness. But when he first received it, he misused the gift. He became so absorbed in the comfort of stillness that he forgot to return to the world. And over time, his spirit dulled, not from movement, but from the absence of intentional being. The lesson, even stillness, must be entered with awareness, otherwise it becomes stagnation. So what can we do differently? We don't need to reject rest. We just need to greet it with intention. Before you collapse onto the couch, consider doing one small thing, something that reminds you of your humanity. Play a song you loved when you were younger and let your body sway gently, even if you don't feel graceful. Brew a cup of tea with full attention, noticing the sound of the water, the warmth in your hands, or stand by the window and just watch the wind move through the trees. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it shouldn't be. It should be small enough to feel possible. but present enough to pull you out of autopilot. Because when we act with intention, even just for a minute, we remind the nervous system that we're still here, still alive, still capable of choosing how this moment unfolds. And when we do settle onto the couch afterward, it feels different. It's no longer a place of disappearance. It becomes a resting ground, a chosen stillness, not a default, but a return. So ask yourself gently, what happens to my evenings when I stop living them on purpose? And just as gently, allow yourself this grace to sit, not to vanish, but to arrive. Part 4. Sound that softens the edges. A playlist for the soul. Some evenings feel like a room filled with silence, but not the peaceful kind. It's a silence that presses in, heavy, stale, and a little too loud. The kind that reminds you of all the spaces in your heart that haven't been touched in a while. And in that space there's a temptation to fill the void with noise. Any noise, just to feel less alone. The television blares, the phone scrolls endlessly, but none of it really soothes. It merely distracts. And then there's music, not just sound, but soulful sound, the kind that meets you where you are and gently lifts you somewhere else. It doesn't demand, it doesn't rush. It simply enters the room like an old friend with no agenda, saying, "I'm here, let's breathe together." There's a memory I often return to, of my grandmother, long since passed, who used to hum to herself while cooking in the evening. She never turned on the radio, never owned a music player. She just sang softly under her breath. Old folk tunes that had no words, only feeling. As a child, I didn't understand. But now, in the quiet of my own kitchen, I realize she wasn't performing. She was anchoring herself. Each note was like a thread, weaving her back into the present moment. In Buddhist monasteries, sound is not just an art, it's a form of mindfulness. The strike of a singing bowl, the slow rhythm of chanting, even the simple act of listening to the wind move through bamboo. These aren't meant to entertain, they're meant to awaken, to soften the edges of the mind that have grown sharp from too much thinking. And that's what music can do for us in the evening. After a long day of noise and deadlines, emails and errands, our nervous system is still spinning. We may be sitting still, but inside, everything is vibrating. Worry, fatigue, residual tension. But when we play the right music, not just anything, but something chosen with care, it acts as a bridge between that inner whirlwind and a quieter shore. I've known people who make a ritual of it, crafting what they call their Afterwork playlist. It begins with slow, gentle melodies, soft piano, acoustic guitar, maybe even a bit of ambient nature sounds, nothing with harsh beats or loud crescendos, just the kind of music that lets you exhale. Then gradually, the playlist builds, a rhythm here, a voice there, something that stirs the body into gentle movement, not dancing perhaps, but swaying, tapping your fingers on the counter, breathing a little deeper. This isn't about productivity. It's about remembrance. Music helps us remember that we are not machines, that we are living, pulsing, feeling beings with an inner rhythm that longs to be heard. And when you let that rhythm guide you, something opens. The air in the room feels softer. The thoughts in your head slow down. Even the fatigue begins to melt. Not because you've erased it, but because you've finally allowed yourself to meet it with care. If you've never made such a playlist, perhaps tonight is the time. Don't overthink it. Choose songs that make you feel, not hyped up, but held. Songs that evoke a quiet joy, a hidden smile, a warm memory. Play them not in the background, but as part of the moment. Light a candle, close your eyes. Let the sound wash over you like a stream, cleansing, carrying, returning you to center. Because music, when chosen with presence, becomes more than just sound. It becomes a prayer without words, a doorway to now, a companion for the soul. So tonight, let yourself be carried, not away from yourself, but into yourself, and let the silence that follows the final note be not empty, but full of peace. Part 5. Stop pouring all of you into what isn't yours. There's a quiet sorrow that builds over time, not from losing something, but from giving away too much of yourself to things that were never meant to hold you. For many years, maybe decades, we're taught that success means giving 100%. That to be a good worker, a responsible adult, a reliable person, we must show up fully, without question, and offer our best energy to every task, every meeting, every demand. And so we do. We pour our sharpest thinking into other people's agendas. We sacrifice weekends, miss sunsets, silence our needs, all in the name of doing what's expected. But no one ever tells us what happens when the pitcher runs dry. I once met a man named George, 72, who'd spent most of his life working in logistics for a shipping company. A brilliant man, precise, committed, endlessly dependable. He told me that even in retirement, he'd wake up at 5 a.m., heart pounding, half dreaming of invoices and deadlines. "It's like my body doesn't know I'm free," he said with a laugh, though his eyes were tired. "I gave everything to a company that doesn't even know I'm gone." And that stayed with me. You see, in Buddhist teaching, there's a concept called upadana, clinging or grasping. But it's not always about what we cling to. Sometimes, it's how much of ourselves we pour into the impermanent. We over-identify with roles, employee, fixer, achiever, and forget the simple truth. These roles are like garments, useful perhaps, but not who we are. When we give all our energy to something external, especially something that won't love us back, we are like rivers feeding into deserts, hoping to be replenished. And the result is not just exhaustion, it's erosion. So how do we begin to reclaim ourselves? It doesn't mean doing less, it means doing differently. It means holding back just enough of your sacred energy for what truly matters, your peace, your body, your creativity, your relationships, your life. Because the world will take and take, not out of malice, but out of momentum, until you say, gently but firmly, "This part of me is not for sale." Start small. Maybe you stop over-perfecting that email. Maybe you let someone else worry about the spreadsheet. Maybe you stop replaying the conversation in your head where you wish you'd said more, and instead you bless it and let it go. You are not lazy for refusing to overextend. You are not selfish for saving energy for yourself. You are wise, and finally remembering that your inner life is not a resource to be mined endlessly. In the Dhammapada, it is written, "The one who masters himself is greater than he who conquers 1,000 men in battle." And what is self-mastery, if not learning to preserve your spirit, to recognize when enough is enough, when presence is more valuable than performance? So let us ask, gently, who gets the best of you each day, and who do you save nothing for? If the answer is work, obligation, or fear, then tonight, shift that balance, even slightly. Pour something back into the cup of your own life. Tend to your garden, both literal and emotional. Write something you don't plan to share. Breathe in silence without needing to be useful. And in that quiet act, you are not stepping away from life. You are finally stepping into it, because your sacred attention was never meant to be spent entirely elsewhere. It was meant, at least in part, to come home to you. Part 6. The gentle power of saying no. There's a certain kind of fatigue that doesn't come from doing too much, but from saying yes when your whole body whispered no. It builds slowly, like water rising beneath a door. At first, it seems manageable. A favor here, a phone call there, a last-minute errand, or a dinner you didn't have the energy for. You smile, you nod, you say, "Of course," because that's what you've always done. You've been the dependable one, the helpful one, the person others know they can turn to. But slowly, something inside begins to hollow, and one evening, maybe while standing over the sink, washing dishes you didn't have the strength to cook, a question creeps in. Why am I so tired and so resentful? I remember speaking to a woman named Joyce, 68, who had spent most of her adult life caring for others, her children, her husband, her aging mother, her community. "I didn't know I was allowed to say no," she said quietly. "It never even occurred to me. Every time someone needed something, I just did it. Until one day I found myself crying over the laundry, and I couldn't even say why. It broke my heart. And yet, it's such a common story. Buddhist practice speaks often about compassion, but what's often forgotten is that compassion must flow in both directions, outward and inward. When we give without balance, when we say yes from guilt or fear of disappointing others, we are not practicing compassion, we are abandoning ourselves. And what's even more tender, we're often doing it not because others demand it, but because we fear that setting boundaries means we are bad, cold, or selfish. But here's a quiet truth, one worth holding close. A boundary is not a wall, it's a bridge to honesty. When we say no, kindly, clearly, without over-explaining, we're not rejecting the other person, we're simply honoring our own inner capacity. We are saying, "I care for you, but I must also care for myself." This too is a spiritual practice. It may start small. The next time someone asks you to commit to something you're not ready for, try pausing. Breathe. Instead of defaulting to yes, try something like, "That sounds lovely, but I'm keeping this evening open to rest. Let's talk another time." Or even more simply, "I don't have the energy for that today, but thank you for thinking of me." At first your voice may shake. You may feel guilt. You may worry that they'll be upset. But something remarkable happens when we begin to respect our own limits. People adapt. And more importantly, you begin to feel whole again. Not out of defiance, but out of truth. There is a line in Buddhist teaching that says, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." And sometimes that word is no. A no that makes room for a deeper yes. A yes to stillness. A yes to rest. A yes to yourself. So tonight, if you're staring at a calendar filled with obligations you never wanted, or scrolling through texts you feel guilty for not replying to, pause. Ask yourself softly, is this my truth or my training? Because life is not a test of how much you can endure. It's a sacred opportunity to live with gentleness. And that gentleness must include how you treat your time, your body, your precious breath. You are not here to serve everyone at the cost of your soul. You are here to walk this earth with presence and peace. And sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is to say no, so that your spirit can finally say yes to being free. Part 7. Not all stillness is rest. Relearning how to pause. We often think that if we're not moving, we must be resting. But stillness, like silence, has layers. There's the stillness of the body. When we collapse onto the bed or couch at the end of the day, limbs heavy, eyes glazed, breath shallow. And then there is the stillness of the soul, spacious, quiet, alive, the kind that heals rather than numbs, that nourishes rather than empties. Too often, we mistake one for the other. How many evenings have passed like this? You finish dinner, sit down, just for a minute, phone in hand, you start scrolling. A few headlines here, a few videos there. Suddenly it's 9:30. The night has dissolved into a blur of information, and yet your mind feels even more cluttered than before. There's no sense of rest, just the faint buzzing of a brain that never stopped racing. I once sat with a man named Walter, 74, a retired professor of literature. "You'd think I'd be good at sitting still," he chuckled. "I used to read for hours, but now I can't even sit for 5 minutes without picking up my phone. It's like I've forgotten how to just be." His words are not unusual. Many of us, even in retirement, carry with us the habit of distraction as a form of comfort. But the teachings of the Buddha remind us that rest is not simply the absence of effort. It is the presence of awareness. A monk once said, "Sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows by itself." But what the world often forgets is that sitting quietly is one of the hardest things we'll ever learn to do. Because to truly pause means to face ourselves, without noise, without agenda, without scrolling past the discomfort. So how do we relearn it? Start with a small ritual, something so simple it may seem laughable. 5 minutes, no screen, no sound. Sit in your favorite chair or lie down on the floor and let your hands rest at your sides. Close your eyes if you'd like. Let the breath arrive and depart without being shaped. At first, your thoughts will run wild. That's okay. They're like children who've been unsupervised for too long. Loud, needy, messy. Let them chatter. You don't need to silence them. You only need to stop chasing after them. This is where stillness becomes sacred, not because it's productive, but because it's present. You might notice the sound of your breath again, or the faint hum of a refrigerator, or your own heartbeat, steady and faithful after all these years. You might even feel an emotion rise, sadness, joy, nostalgia, something buried beneath all the noise. Welcome it. This is your life speaking. This is your spirit returning. You see, in Buddhist mindfulness, there's no goal in meditation except to be with what is, not what should be. Not what was, but this moment, this inhale, this exhale, as it is. And in that space, even 5 minutes becomes a homecoming. Some people fear that sitting still will make them feel unproductive, but I've come to believe that the most powerful act in a noisy world is to do nothing on purpose. To reclaim even a sliver of your day as sacred, as yours. So tonight, when your body longs to sink into routine, ask, what if I gave myself 5 minutes of presence before I disappeared into distraction? Let the lights be dim. Let the room be quiet. Let the mind be whatever it is. And in that brave little pause, you may discover something you've forgotten. Stillness is not where you lose yourself. It's where you find what was never lost. Part 8. Find something to anticipate. Even a cup of tea can be sacred. There's a unique kind of emptiness that settles in when the sun begins to set and the day no longer asks anything from us. The rush is over. The chores are done. The silence returns. Not peaceful, not heavy, just blank. Some call it the dead zone, that stretch between dinner and sleep, where time feels suspended, like a hallway with no doors. You wander through it, perhaps watching TV, perhaps scrolling, perhaps standing in the kitchen unsure of why you walked in. And though your body is home, your spirit floats, unanchored, untouched, uninspired. But what if, instead of drifting through that blank space, you could place something there, something small, something just for you? Not out of obligation, not to be productive, but simply because your soul deserves delight, even in modest form. I once met an older gentleman named Samuel, a widower in his early 80s. He told me that after his wife passed, his evenings felt unbearably silent. I'd sit in the same chair we always shared, he said, and the clock ticked louder than my thoughts. For a while, he tried filling the time with errands and background noise, but nothing seemed to soothe the ache. Until one day, while at a small farmer's market, he picked up a jar of lavender honey. That evening, he made himself a cup of herbal tea, added a spoonful of the honey, and sat down in the garden as the sun slipped behind the trees. It was nothing, he told me, voice soft, and yet it became everything. Every evening after that, he gave himself that ritual, a cup of tea, a quiet bench, a moment that belonged to no one else. It gave my evenings a heartbeat, he said. Something to look forward to, something that wasn't about surviving the night, but living it, even for a few minutes. That story never left me, because it speaks to something deeply Buddhist, the power of mindful anticipation. When we look forward to something with gentle joy, we don't just wait for it, we expand into it. We allow it to soften us, to pull us out of mechanical existence and into something tender, alive, and awake. You don't need grand hobbies or elaborate plans. The sacred doesn't require spectacle. Maybe it's a chapter of a novel you only read at night, by the same lamp, in the same worn chair. Maybe it's a jigsaw puzzle you return to piece by piece, without pressure to finish. Maybe it's a silly show that makes you laugh out loud, the kind of laughter that surprises you by how much it still lives in your chest. Or maybe, like Samuel, it's simply a hot drink, a bit of sweetness, and the act of watching the sky change colors. The truth is, your spirit doesn't ask for much, only that it be remembered, only that it be invited into the space you've forgotten how to claim. So tonight, I invite you to choose one thing, one small act of kindness toward yourself that makes the evening feel yours. Give it the honor of anticipation. Plan for it, prepare for it, even protect it from distraction, because this is not trivial, it is deeply human. In Buddhism, the joy of simple things, known as santosha in Sanskrit, is a state of contentment that arises when we stop searching and begin noticing. It's not the joy of more, it's the joy of enough, of recognizing the sacred in what is already here. And when you create that moment, when you lean into it with full presence, you'll notice something shift. The evening no longer feels like a waiting room. It becomes a sanctuary, a place where you do not disappear, but arrive. So let the kettle boil, let the book rest open, let your favorite chair hold you like a trusted friend, and let this small, quiet joy remind you, you are still here, you are still alive, and this right now, this humble, chosen moment, is worth looking forward to. Conclusion. The evening is not the end. It is the beginning of presence. So often we treat the evening like a period at the end of a sentence, the close of a day, the shutting down of thought, the slow slide toward sleep. But what if that isn't the full truth? What if the evening is not the end at all, but the invitation, an invitation to return, not to your to-do list, not to your devices, not to your obligations, but to yourself. Throughout this reflection, we've gently explored the quiet ways we lose ourselves after work. Not in chaos or noise, but in habit, in numbness, in the quiet disappearance of the soul beneath routine. And yet we've also seen that it doesn't take grand gestures to reclaim our spirit. Just a mindful walk at the edge of the day to mark a transition. Just one small action before the couch to anchor your humanity. Just the right music to soften the edges of thought. Just a sacred no to protect what is tender inside you. Just 5 minutes of presence instead of endless distraction. just one thing to look forward to bring color back to the evening. These aren't fixes. They're reminders that rest is not about shutting down, but waking up to the simplicity of being alive, right here, in this quiet space that was always yours. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that suffering often arises not from what happens to us, but from the way we forget ourselves in the process. And so, reclaiming your energy isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's a way of saying to your own heart, you matter too. So tonight, instead of asking, what do I still need to do? Ask, what would help me come home to myself, and begin there. Try just one quiet change, just one moment where you choose awareness over autopilot. One gentle shift, not to be better or more productive, but simply to be. You don't have to transform your life all at once. You only need to touch it, softly, mindfully, again and again, until even the stillness begins to feel alive again. Because the evening is not the leftovers of your day, it is the opening of a doorway. And if you listen closely, beneath the ticking clock, the hum of lights, the weight of fatigue, you might hear something stirring. It is your soul, reminding you that you are still here. That peace was never far, only forgotten. May your evenings become sanctuaries, not just what's left over, but what brings you back to life. If this reflection touched something quiet within you, we invite you to stay on this path with us. Subscribe to Quiet Wisdom and join a growing circle of hearts who are learning to live, not faster, but deeper. And until we meet again, may you walk gently, rest fully, and remember, you are not a machine to recharge. You are a soul to be welcomed home.